So I'm glad that some people understand and get it because I'm honestly tired of explaining this to people. And for people just don't say, oh, he's a sweet old man. He looks like a sweet old man. And mind you, this is something that I haven't really told anybody is that so when all this shit was going on, I was getting all the backlash and the hate from people in my inbox, wishing me, giving me death threats, all this bullshit because I eliminated him on a game. He reached out to me and said, I'm so sorry that you're going through all this stuff. You know, just all this nice. He gave me some words of encouragement and wisdom there. And then he says, well, also thank you for making me look like this nice old man.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so happy you came by. The Queerly Blax Show aims to normalize the everyday existence of Black, LGBTQIA+ individuals through an interview-style series with regular folks like you and me. So every week, a new guest shares their story and unique perspective on their existence as an LGBTQIA+ individual. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe, download, set your reminders to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'm joined today by a very special guest. If you watch Squid Games, then I don't really need to introduce her. If you knew, player 229, I don't really need to say anything. But for those who didn't watch, Phalisia is here. We're going to talk to Phalisia. Phalisia, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, I am player 229 from the Squid Game, the challenge. But I have a little bit more to share. I'm just not this one character you guys see, the crying, emotional person. I actually am a real person. So I'm glad to have this platform that you have to share my story and get to know who I am too. So thank you so much for allowing us queer Black people to actually speak our actual voices. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super important because, obviously, a lot of times, just like myself, we're introduced to different personalities through what is shared, whether it be through your personal platform or in your situation, a show, right? Which shows,
right.
There's 456 people. There's an hour per episode or something like that. 10 there's just such a limited amount of time to get to know one person. And then, of course, they kind of skew it to who they want to show and how much of that person they want to show. And it was, it's very obvious. And so then, there's obviously the critical parts where they kind of highlight you and Ashley's relationship and certain things and whatever, but it definitely doesn't give us a good blueprint of who you are. So that's why we're here today. Particularly your journey in this queer space. So the first question I always ask everybody is, when did you know you liked the ladies?
I don't know. I think it was when I first acted on it was probably middle school. I just knew that I was attracted to women, or girls, I guess, at that time when I was young. I was a big fan of Britney Spears, so I was obsessed with her and her look. And maybe that's where my infatuation grew a little bit more, but middle school, I think that's when kids, I guess, in general, just start to get to know their bodies a little bit more, get to know who they are a little bit more. And so I would have this is kind of TMI, summer parties, and we would just peck and kiss on the cheek, on the lips, and it was like that little stuff.
Playing a little house.
Just a little house. Yeah. And then it, obviously you have high school where I probably, it was just myself. I didn't know if I was a lesbian. I would just love people. And I grew to more closer to women more than anything. So I had like a little girlfriend, someone I would like enjoy my time with when in high school, but I didn't really have like a coming out type of vibe. I guess I was blessed in this situation of I just told my mom and my dad that, hey, I was, into women or I had a girlfriend, and that was it. And they didn't really question me. They didn't say, when did this happen? They just was like, okay, that's who you are. That's just, I guess, who I've been since I was a kid, a free spirit, just kind of going and coming or whatever. So yeah, that was just, it wasn't really a journey, I guess. Like I don't have the big coming out party or anything like that. It was just my life. And I'm so thankful to have people that are still with me. Like I have the connections with my parents and things like that. Cause I know that's a huge part of people's coming out story of there's relationships are being broken, and I didn't have that. So I I'm blessed to have the family that I did have, and friends that didn't take, me for who I liked, and what I was doing. They didn't, disassociate themselves with me. So, um, yeah, that's my story.
Awesome. No, that's great because definitely people have, more people have the opposite story than not. But
Yes.
it's great to see that, some people do have, they're just fine. It's good. And I
Yeah.
think especially as a femme, because it's so much easier to kind of just be like, oh, I'll deal with that later. Like I don't have to,
Yeah.
display my
That's true.
sexuality. How was your experience um as a femme, with your parents and your family? It seemed like it was great. Have you ever had any experiences just as a femme where people kind of are like not
Yeah.
taking it serious?
Yeah. I mean, still to this day, right? I have now even more people in my inbox. But even before Squid Game, people would be like, why are you a lesbian? Why are you gay? Like, what does that mean? Like, or you're too pretty to be. And I'm like, hell, what the hell?
Mhm.
It's confusing, right? Like, it's just so disgusting how people can just disregard like who you're in love with or who you love, for something for themselves. And like people just don't see it, I guess, because I'm a femme. Um, but a lot of it has to do with my wife too. She fights people all the time with because she's more masculine. I wouldn't say she's a stud, but she just because she's 100%. If you get her there, she's like, oh, okay, but she's definitely presents more masked, and so people call her sir all the time, and I'm like, I get really frustrated because like you don't even take the time to even figure out who you're talking to. And in 2023, it's just ridiculous. I think everybody needs to do better. I personally need to do better, especially with pronouns and things like that. So it's not like I'm 100% perfect. I think we all are here to learn, and we need to grow, and things change in life, right? Like I know people are just not used to change, but they need to get with it. It's the times. It's
Yes.
just get with it.
Yeah, I always say like because I get the same thing. Like people, they're like, I always give the example of like Chipotle. I go to Chipotle, they're like looking down at the thing and they're like, "How you doing, sir?" "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." Like, man, it's just I always say they just don't take the time to load the profile. Like they
Yeah.
don't even like it's like you got 70% and you're like, "Oh, actually,
Yeah.
a big set of boobs here. Like this is
Yeah.
clearly clearly a woman, right?" What is your yeah, I mean, because with the pronoun thing, I struggle with that too. I had an episode like
Yeah.
early on episode with who is actually a friend of mine now, the transgender guy, and like at one point in there or two, maybe even two, I called him she, and I corrected myself immediately. But talk about just being in the community and kind of being
Yeah.
seen in some ways as like this expert, but still learning yourself.
Yeah. It's hard. It's not easy, right? This is not something I grew up with, right? And I do respect our allies that do take the time, that they're way better than I am, 100%, right? And I think we all need to learn from the people that are showing us this path. Um, it's just one of those, it's just difficult for me. It's something I've never had to do before. And so when I do come across people with different pronouns than what I assume, it is challenging, but I do try to correct myself. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, yes, it's, we live in this world, things have changed. And yeah, but I think as long as you're trying to make the change is what matters at the end of the day. Right. So as long as you say, I'm sorry, I apologize. Because people actually do commit suicide over people
Mhm.
getting called the wrong thing. So it's not, for me, it's definitely not something I'm intentionally doing. It's, and 100%, it's not just us. I would say if you have pronouns that are not all the way, how do I say this? Noticeable, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
and that's
obvious from
also
like your appearance.
obvious.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then definitely correct me because
Yeah.
I would prefer that instead of taking it the wrong way or
Mhm.
feeling some type of way about it later on. Let me know it's upfront, right? And say like, you know what, I actually go by um, whatever pronoun. So and I do appreciate so much and I feel so bad when I do it and I'm like, oh shit, like sorry. And then but I appreciate it. Like, correct me
Yeah.
100%.
And I imagine for you, that probably comes from your name. Because I watched
Yeah.
your Squid Games intro tape, and you're
It's
like,
so
not to be
embarrassing.
confused with Felicia. Because I
Yes,
imagine people probably mess your name up a lot. And
all the time.
so for you, like being corrected, like if someone's like pronouns are wrong or something like that, it's not offensive. And I think to most people, it's like,
No.
hey, I just prefer to be called something else, right?
Yes.
Because to your point, we're all learning throughout this process. And even like Kamala, she's a great example of that too. She always is like, when people kind of shorten their name, when they tell her name, but then they
Mm,
shorten it to like make it easier. She's like, no, what is your real name? I want to say your name, and other
right.
people should, say your name too. So yeah, I mean, it's just a journey. We're all learning. It's a very expensive uh set of words that we're all learning.
Yes.
So patience with even us in the queer community. We don't all have
Yes.
it together. We're just all trying to operate with respect here.
Yes.
So you have a beautiful family,
Thank
and
you.
wife, you're a military wife, you have a beautiful daughter. Talk about how you and your wife met, and then we'll talk about how you guys started your family.
Yeah. I kind of stalked her for a hot minute.
There you go.
That's how you get them. Just keep be
Go after
persistent.
what you want, ladies.
Um, no, but I would see her around town. We lived in the same city for a very long time, and I would see her at clubs and whatnot. And our circle's already small, especially in Colorado, it's even smaller. And just to have a hip hop type vibe, definitely a lot smaller. Um, so yeah, I would see her out and I would ask her, "Hey, are you with anybody? Are you, single?" She's like, "Oh no, I'm with so and so. Oh no, I'm with so and so." Whatever, fine. So this happened on multiple occasions. Well, with she was in a relationship, I was in a relationship. We both ended our relationships. Not because of each other or anything like that, but just because things just didn't work out with our previous partners. And um one night I saw her coming out of a skating rink, and I was like, "Oh," and talking to another group of friends, where are you going? Where's she going? Oh, we're talking about going to Club Q, the mass shooting that happened. Is where we actually kind of started our whole thing. Um, and so I found out she was going. She actually didn't know that she was going until I was actually going. And so it kind of was a little setup for our friends that they were like, "Okay, Felicia, you're going, Val's going." Um, and so she kind of said, our friend said the same thing to her, is that Felicia was going. So then she wanted to go. So we met up there to hopefully get to talk to each other. And I asked the same question, "Hey, are you with anybody?" And she said, um, "No, I'm not." And so pretty much from that point on, we made out the entire night. And I really didn't want a relationship. I just wanted to bang it out and call it done.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then she was like, "How about we have coffee instead?" And I was like,
You're like, oh,
"Fine."
she got morals and values and shit.
I know. I know. So we talked. I mean, we talked and I just fell in love right then and there. Um, we got out the club at like 2 a.m., right? And we probably stayed up till 6 or 7 in the morning just talking. And I think it was like over a holiday weekend. And so every single day she made the effort to want to see me again. Didn't have sex, wanted to see me again. And we would hang out. And then I lived in Denver at this time. So she would come up to Denver sometimes. And then finally it was just kind of like, "You just want to bring some clothes and just kick it, and that way you don't have to always drive back." And from there she just stayed a little bit longer, and I pretty much pressured her to ask me to be her girlfriend, and she said
There you go.
yeah.
Persistence.
Yeah. But then from there it was like a year later we got married, lesbian time, how we work.
Yeah.
So we knew what we wanted. We had the same goals in mind, and yeah, so we were like, let's just do it. She proposed and we got married, I think a couple months later, and yeah.
Why do you think lesbian time is so much quicker than
Regular time.
a
Normal people time.
heteronormative time?
It's because we are already full of emotion, right? And when women want something, we want it now, right? We don't have time to be waiting. We don't really have patience. And I think just with all the emotions and how much love and all the stuff we can bring and give, we click up really quick.
Yeah. Do you feel like because I think with like, this is interesting. Lesbian time is a very good way to describe it. With heteronormative time, with guys, most of the time, it's like, we got to have this, like, everything together. Like, I want my money right. I want to have my house, my career, right? Well, women are similar, but love trumps all of that. Like, if like a woman falls in love, she's like, I don't care. Like, forget all that. Like,
well, let's figure out us first before we like get actually our shit together.
Like, we'll have this situation. Like, we'll be married, and then like we'll figure that part out later.
We'll figure out finances and shit that we're like, oh shit, we probably should have started this conversation way before that. We got together.
The U-Haul, all that stuff. It just, I mean, women are, I think, a little more decisive when it comes to that too. Like, if you meet somebody that you feel like is like, okay, this is like my person, like, you just move forward, full steam ahead, versus like needing all these extra things to be together. You're like, I'll figure all that out, but you're my person, and I might not come across you again. So like, let's just make this happen.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And so then you guys have a daughter. Talk about the process of conceiving your daughter. Did you carry? Did your wife carry?
Yeah, I carried. And it was a rough journey. It wasn't easy. And even for heterosexual relationships, that shit ain't easy either. I think and please don't mark my words if I'm wrong, but if, heterosexual relationships, they try to have a baby, it's even like 20% that they could even conceive. So with science involved, it's to help everything. But still, it's still really low chances. And we knew we wanted a family. And so we tried, I think maybe 2 years after we've been married, or maybe a year and a half after we've been married. And we tried IUI, which was the less invasive, right? You didn't get pumped with a bunch of medication, which is a whole nother world. But so it was, IUI is intrauterine insemination. And what they do is just what I call the turkey baster method, but they take a vial of sperm, and then they take a catheter, put that into your vagina through your cervix, and then they shoot the sperm through to your uterus, and hopefully, it works out. Everything obviously is time. So when you're ovulating, and they try to make sure everything's matching up properly. So that's the less invasive. And we've probably done that 5 to 6 times, and it's not cheap. Sperm ain't cheap.
No,
like it's not cheap. It's crazy how, like, people can get a load on their face, on their ass, everything. But like, then
can we put that in a bottle here? Cannot just like when y'all are done.
Just when you get done, can you
bottle that up for me?
But when you're in this relationship where you obviously cannot make sperm, this shit is expensive. And like the whole, and just not even that, but it's like you having to pick who your donor is, right? That's a whole nother
very limited selection.
Yes. And my wife is 6 foot. She's Korean. She's German, Spanish. Like, she's just what she calls the American dream, right? She's just everything, but she really identifies with her Korean side of her. And so we can't, there's not really a lot of pickings for sperm that are 6 foot Koreans. There's other Asian cultures like Chinese, but we don't have Chinese, right? So, I mean, from months to try to figure out who we want, and it has to match up with, my type of, my body chemistry, right? And so it's just that struggle alone. Finally, we find somebody, and then it just doesn't work out. And you're like, what the hell?
And for context, people, these vials are like, if you go to a good reputable bank, right? So we I think ours were like $1,200 each. Now that's just the sperm. That's not the storage. That's not sending it to your doctor's office. Like, that's none of that. That's not the records. If you want to see more information about the person. Right. So just for context, while she's telling you guys, it's like 5 to 6 times of not working. Multiply that by
Like I
you
would say
know,
like I probably spent we
plus the
spent anywhere from
procedure. So that's just the sperm.
yes,
Then you got to pay the doctor for the procedure. So
yes,
yeah, keep
yes.
going.
It's about 5 grand, I would say, about average that we would spend on just like you said, everything, even including the procedure, um, extra testing if we wanted it.
Yep.
So we did that 5 to 6 times, didn't work out. So our doctor at the time was like, well, you know what, we're not going to keep doing IUI, we have to go IVF. And we were like, we don't understand what's wrong. Like, I'm obviously this young adult, you know, they did all type of testing to verify that my fallopian tubes are flowing. And they're just like, we don't know, it just sometimes happens and sometimes it doesn't. And so they go IVF, we go IVF route, which is easy $25,000
Out the gate.
out the gate. And it was just, I was ready but I didn't really want to do that, right? I didn't want to put my body full of stuff. And I think I still have effects, like issues with all that, those hormones and stuff. But anywho, so getting pumped, you know, I think it's maybe a 2-month period where you're pumping your body, and all it is just my ovaries. I can just feel them when I'm walking. I'm in so much pain, like throughout, like towards the end of the cycle. And once they do retrieve my eggs, I have 28 of them, which is like, everyone's like, great, whoa, you know. And so I'm excited. So then you wait like another week to get everything fertilized and whatever, which ones actually looked good. And then I think I probably only had 3 eggs after that. And I was like, what the hell happened? So, and out of those 3 eggs, only 1 of them worked. And so from 28 to 1, we're like, we only have 1 chance. Some people are blessed to have multiple options, right? Like if 1 doesn't work, they got, 4 others, whatever they can do. I only had 1 shot. And we tried the 1 shot. We did everything by the book. And it didn't work. So we're out 25,000 or probably more than that. We're so hurt, right? So we just started bickering and started getting very nasty with each other because 1, I'm pissed off, I can't conceive, right? Like what the hell's wrong with my body? And then 2, she's just like, okay, let's do it again. She wants, we both want this family, but she's just kind of like pushing me, and I didn't have it no more. And so and that's where when I said we went to the brink of divorce, because I just didn't want to do it. Like, I can't be with someone that's forcing me to do something I don't want to do at this time. Communication was probably the biggest thing. We didn't have it at that moment. I was shut off. She was shut off. We just pretty much stopped talking about babies and just try to go with the flow, but just things didn't work out. So we kind of had a whole moment of, like, I would say about 2-3 months where it was just really hard after not conceiving. And we were talking about getting a divorce. Finally, we were like, we don't want a divorce. Let's actually sit down and talk and like figure out what we want to do. Let's get to know each other a little bit better. Why are we not communicating? Why is this not working? And so we did that. So we will focus on ourselves for about another 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. And we just loved one each other. We went out to concerts, we traveled, all the things. And we fell in love again, pretty much. And we were like, okay, well, when we move, we're going to sell our house and pay off all this baby debt. And then we're going to find another house. So we had like a goal in mind, and then we'll start over. And we did that. And as soon as we were in the house, I was like, okay, we're ready. I'm ready. Let's do it. And so we went to another doctor. And I would always say, like, yeah, if you have a doctor you trust, but if you feel like at any point during the journey that somebody's not telling you right, or someone's just forcing you to do something, find other options, find other places. And I felt like that's what we were kind of given. We were getting pushed to do IVF, but other people, after talking to them, were like, you didn't need to do that. You can do as many IUIs as if you want to. It's your money. And at this clinic, I was getting pushed to do something I didn't want to do. Anyway, so then found this amazing. It was just a reproductive department of a huge hospital. And I'm so glad that they have this. And super sweet people. Staff were lovely. They explained everything. That was one thing I didn't know, like why this clinic just wouldn't explain everything. Like I would have questions and they would seem like as if I would already know the answer. Or they were just nasty people, really, honestly.
Yeah.
But anywho, I went to this other doctor. We tried it once, IUI. We found the donor. Everything was perfect, and that was it. We got pregnant. I knew I was pregnant because TMI, my cervical mucus was a different, weird color, texture, everything. I was like, this isn't normal. I'm pregnant. And we actually got inseminated on, I think it was the 24th of December, which was obviously the day before Christmas. And yeah, so Zane, we've talked about different names. So my daughter's name is Zane, and it means God's gift. And we just knew that, like, okay, well, this is perfect because everything just works out. And just the timing of everything was just like amazing. So anyway, yeah, I couldn't wait the 12 weeks or whatever I told everybody and their mama. And finally 12 weeks came and I was like, oh, we made it. Like, this is it. And I think I'm one and done after that. Honestly.
How old is she?
She's 2. She's 2.
Yeah.
She's in her fun 2s, right?
Yeah. We my son's he's 13 months and we've committed to waiting a little bit, but we, you know, I think we committed to wanting him to have a sibling, but yeah, it's once they hear you be like, there are days where I'll be like, he could really be an only child and it could really be okay. Like, but my wife has this thing where she's like, we need a daughter because, like, who's going to take care of us when we're old? Because, like, sons just don't have like the maternal, like, you know. I'm like, he'll be fine. We'll be great. He'll make sure we eat. Like, we'll be clean. You know, we won't have all the bells and whistles, but we'll be all right. He'll be fine. We'll pay for some health care. Like, we'll be all right.
Oh man, yeah. I think we want it. I mean, I don't know if we talk about it now. Like, babe, do you want to like have another one? But like, I'm just more asking just to see what she would say, to see if it would change. But I think we're fine. We might be just fine with just having the one. And she's so full of life and energy, and like she's a huge personality on her own. I don't know even how anybody else would take up a space. So, yeah. So and I kind of explained this on the show is that, and maybe it got switched out of context a little bit. So it was my egg, and we found a donor that obviously looked like my wife. And when she came out, you know, white baby. And I was like, okay, I was a little pink when I came out, but she was white. I was like, oh, okay. Cause you don't know. And when the donor, the bank that we went to, it was all anonymous. So we actually didn't see anything. It was a Colorado bank, and they have to be like in school, they have to have a degree or something like that. And anyway, so she came out all white with a little bit of red hair, and we were like, what did we get? Because it's not what we signed up for.
Somebody owes us some answers.
Yeah. But no, then I realized that when I looked at my baby pictures, I had a little bit of red hair. And in the light too, sometimes I can see it. But she looks identical to my wife in her baby pictures. And it's like, it's so amazing how that works out. And so she's our little blessing. And I'm just so thankful. I would say this though, how much I'm just so thankful. It's kind of like a catch-22 because I have to tell myself that I did this. I made this child.
Yeah.
And sometimes when her mouth or when she ignores me, I'm like, I made this.
Yeah.
I wanted this.
Yeah. I asked for this. I went through a lot to get to this.
I know. And I'm like, I told her the other day, I was like, do you know what I went through to get you? And she's just looking at me like, you're a wild child. She don't care.
No, she's like, I didn't.
You would think you would think it would maybe be different. They don't care.
No, they don't. Not at all. Not at all. Until they have their own kids.
Yeah.
It's 30 years down the line. So you won't get the reciprocity on that for another 30 years.
Yeah.
So speaking of, you talked a little bit about this on the game. most of us discovered you from Squid Games. So talk about your experience as player 229. And you know, just dispel any myths that might be out there. I'm sure your inbox is probably going crazy as people are watching the show and like just getting to the end. And so just talk about your experience.
Yeah.
Pull up a seat.
No. Well, I honestly got on because I wanted to get on the circle. I was obsessed with the circle. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, ooh, they need a season 2. I immediately applied. And then I would sign up for like any other shows that would come out, right? So I would just get like inboxed with like other shows. Well, I think my daughter was like 1.5 or 1 and like 3 months at this time. And I got an inbox or a message that says, hey, are you competitive? Do you want $4.56 million Squid Game, the challenge? And I was like, what is this? Because we all know Squid Game, when that came out, how crazy that whole thing was. And I think everybody's TV or eyes were glued to the TV or Netflix when that was out, right? Because you didn't expect it. And so I was like, hell yeah, I'll play. But are they really killing us? Because I'm not doing a sign up for that. Obviously, they didn't. So I did the crazy video that you've seen. And yes, it's 100%. I mean, it's me, but I took like 2 shots to make that because I was like, I am so nervous. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? But it was like me elevated. I am very like crazy. I dance. I'm like fun. All that stuff is 100% me compared to what you saw. And that's just because it's a different game, right? Your 455 other players are looking at you. They want the same thing. Yeah, you're going to have to switch some things up. If I was that same person, I would have been eliminated immediately. And so, yeah, I did red light, green light. That first challenge, I didn't know if I was going to make it. And I like kept saying was like, Zane wants you to do this. Zane wants you to do this. So I just kept saying my daughters, for my daughters, for my daughters, for my daughter. And I would hold positions with my arms up for like 20 minutes. And I was like, why did I do that? That is so stupid. But I made it through and yeah, made it to the next round and we got into dorms and that's when the game started, like when the social experiment started. People that you would see, it was weird, like Black people would hang out with Black people and white people would hang out with white people. Men would start hanging out with men. The jocks would hang out with jocks. And it was like, what happened? Like, what happened to the like the world I'm used to seeing of everyone's together in community? And you saw that happen closer to the end, but it was very like segregated. And it's just crazy how just that you find comfort in those things, right? But so I kept my little happy ass in my bed the entire time as much as possible. And I just watched, I peeked. I was actually really close with Jessie. I don't know if anyone knows who that is. I can't remember her number. She's going to kill me. She's the one that eliminated, was the first, or the captain, I guess, that eliminated 432 Brighton. And I was really close with her because we were in line together for red light, green light. And that's kind of who you see bonded a little bit, though, was like the people that were in line together mostly of that red light, green light challenge. We got lined up in our numbers by 100. So 200s all the way down to 299 and stuff like that. But yeah, I was very quiet the entire time until like you just start to see things form, which was the male dominant alliance. That was huge. It would grow every single day. And I think this comes out of like, there's 456 people, right, in this game show. They can't get everything, but they try to get some things. But it did sound like I was saying that because I'm a lesbian, I don't like male dominant people, or like I don't like men. And that's definitely not the case. Right. I love men. Men are great. But if you're in a game, that's going to hurt me, right? Like if there's a male dominant alliance, that's going to hurt my game and what I have going on. And mind you, the game before that was in warships, and people thought it was tug of war. So people were lining up for tug of war, and there was like 2 to 3 other like male dominant lines, right? And there was one solid male line, and that's because they figured it was tug of war, and they didn't want women because they physically think or they think that women are physically weaker than them, right? So nobody's talking about that sexist bullshit, but everyone's talking about how I got Jack in the Box and I eliminated 3 men. Well, yeah, I eliminated 2 men because they were the head of the male dominant alliance. And Rick 232 is 100. Like, this man is wise as hell. He obviously knows how to play Dachi. We already saw that. But in the dorms, just everybody talks, and it's the best game or the worst game of telephone because everything gets to you in like 20 to 30 minutes. And people were talking about how he studied for the game, how he practiced Umbrella on Dalgona, how he knew marble games and how to win and like all this stuff. So he's 100% a threat to me. He might look like a sweet old man.
Yeah,
and everybody
he was like the male version of Mai. Like,
yes,
Mai was just 100%. Like, you don't even, when she was, he was really good. Like, everybody loved him. Like, it was just like, a lot of the decisions made sense to me. Obviously, people are like, oh, these were like some of the favorite people got eliminated. Of course, like, I mean, 432 was like the head of the jocks. Like, he was this like super, like, well, yeah, he's got to go because he's anybody that was like a extreme personality got put out pretty quick because you just kind of show your hand fast and people like, okay, yeah. And if I don't know anybody, but I know you're loudmouth, then like you gotta go, you gotta go. And he was this sweet guy, what were they, the Gangnam crew or whatever, like
Gambu gang,
Gambu gang. There you go. Yeah, man, come on,
So I'm glad that some people understand and get it because I'm honestly tired of explaining this to people, and for people just don't say, oh, he's a sweet old man. He looks like a sweet old man, and mind you, this is something that I haven't really told anybody, is that so when all this shit was going on, I was getting all the backlash and the hate from people in my inbox, wishing me, giving me death threats, all this bullshit because I eliminated him on the game. He reached out to me and said, I'm so sorry that you're going through all this stuff, just all this nice. He gave me some words of encouragement and wisdom there. And then he says, well, also thank you for making me look like this nice old man, because I'm not. And so like he says it, like I can, if you want the receipts, I can screenshot it and send it, but I was like, you know what? I know it's a game. Like, I don't need to do all that to prove these people wrong. But at the end of the day, it's a fucking game. Like,
and I think that's the thing people forget is that like they fall in love with, as a viewer, you fall in love with these people. And I experienced the same thing, but I'm like, it's a game. Like, you have to play the game. Like, and there may be like short-term backlash for a person that you like in the game. Because the first thing I thought was like, oh shit, man, they about to tear Phalisia up after this. Like, because I'm like, okay, I'm more invested in you on the game versus these people. But I'm like, shit, this is not. Now she's got to go back out here with these people, and like they're gonna be like, oh, she, So it's like that was really my watching it. Like, my fear was like, oh my god, man, how is this gonna go? Like, these people are gonna try to get her out the first chance they get, but then obviously,
I got myself
had to play marbles, and that picnic was such a setup.
It was so terrible. Everyone's like, and I just wish that they had cameras like Big Brother so you can kind of see what's happening, but no, like, we didn't think anything was going to happen. We thought we were really getting a treat. And the reason why is we had back-to-back eliminations, right? And different tests. And so we were like, oh, it's going to have to be a treat. Like, they cannot just, like, their track record was like, okay, elimination, treat, elimination, treat. And like, obviously that wasn't the case. And so I found the trap. Mind you, though, Ashley, she kept wanting me to be with her. And I kept saying, no. Like, I don't want to be with you. I'm going to go in the back. Leave me alone. She's like, it's just a treat. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I promise. She might have set me up. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. But then, that was my girl. I was like, all right, it might be a treat, whatever. And then we sat down. I immediately look in the basket because I like, this has to be a setup. I look at her and she looks at me and she said, put that shit back. As she was like, like as if it was just gonna disappear.
They don't know we got it. Just put it back.
And then we started crying, obviously. We were both pissed. And then she wanted to like just not play. She wanted to eliminate herself. She's like, I'm just gonna just not play. I'm gonna just let you have it. And I was like, no, you can't do that. And I wish they would have showed this, but me and her had a whole talk of like, you can't just not play the game because it's me and you. Like, one of us is going to have to make this decision on like, or play, and then one of us is going to have to go forward. I'm not going to allow you just to forfeit. Like, there's no way. Because what's going to happen is that she's going to forfeit, and then she's going to be like, damn, I should have played. And that's why I'm so glad they caught that part, though, when she did beat me in marbles. Mind you, just so you guys know, let me go backwards. The girl is not athletic as shit. She's hitting the cameraman with these marbles. The cameramen are ducking, and everyone's looking at her like, okay, you have to like try to aim to get it in the. When I'm throwing them, I keep hitting the can, and I'm like, one of these are gonna sink. One of these are gonna sink, but nope. Hers just somehow just went in, and that's why at the end of the game, she's like, I wasn't supposed to win, and I was like, yes, you were, because obviously I was so close and she was just all over and scattered that like her one marble mattered. And she made it through. She did her thing, and it was her time to shine. So I just said, you better make it, and you better get far. It's like, and I was like, you better win, but that's fine. I'll take fifth. That's fine.
Yeah, right, exactly. What'd you think about her not taking that jump?
I love her for not taking the jump. I know the story.
She was
obviously like I know the story and how it looked. It looked really bad. And
homeboy was like
boop, boop. And yeah.
Oh man.
I know it looked.
That was my
really
favorite game, by the way. That one had me going. I was like, oh man, oh no.
I know. It was
every
rough.
time somebody fell through, I was like, oh.
And then TJ's ass. I was like, damn, you set yourself up for that.
That was crazy. So you say you understand why she didn't jump.
I understand.
Her logic made sense to me. And she was like, I ain't signed up for that. But then I was giving her hell because I was like, okay.
When she asked everybody.
No, so she didn't jump that time. He jumped again. He fell through. And then she had to take the jump. But that was her whole reason, was because she had such an early number that she was going to have to do it. Like, either way. So she was kind of like, okay, well, whatever. But then she was like ignoring that whole process. And then when she made it, then she was like, all right, come on, everybody, all right, let's go.
Overtake me. Yeah. But look, that's the thing. It's like, anybody could have, and that could have been such a cutthroat game, 100%. Yeah. Everyone would be like, no, you take your jump. You go. Like, and just like the dice game, right? And she could have, but I think everybody understood her reasoning for it, right? Like how everyone was blowing it up about the Trey situation. Mai ain't taking her jump for anybody. She back at 20. I think Sam wasn't taking his jump, or nobody's jump. He's back at 19. People that were sitting pretty in the, 15, they was like, I ain't taking no jump. Hell no, I ain't about to overtake nobody. But if they really wanted to make it a cutthroat game, like in dice, they could have just been like, Ashley or whoever, we want this one person out and we're gonna roll whatever, and if it's a 6, it's out. You know what I mean? They could have, but that wasn't the type of vibe. And I think everybody, like fans of the show, which I'm so thankful for, but they're the only ones that are really upset with anything. Like this would happen a whole year and a half, like a year ago. So we're fine. We're back in our normal spaces, but like people are just so annoying and extra that like you're just, anyway.
Were you surprised by anything watching it back? Because obviously you probably saw a lot more that was happening that you didn't see while you're in the experiment. You see like so much more that's happening. Was there anything that like surprised you, or that you were like, I had no idea that was happening this entire time?
The first thing would have been the elimination that first happened with Muti. Player
in the
200.
Kitchen? When they were cooking?
So, correct. I thought it was the twins. There was these sets of twins. I think they're called the Michelle twins. And I thought it was them. Because usually when you go to chores, that's when shit starts to like bubble, or like pop off. So like, so I thought it was them, because I heard some rumor about how Muti had like cut them in line for food. And I was like, they didn't really do that. Like they couldn't have like really eliminated this guy because of that. But I was like, shit, it's the game, right? But yeah, I was surprised about that. Who did that? And then also, I didn't know that 161 Lorenzo was actually stealing food. Because because all we saw was like, who took another food from production? Because only one food is allowed. And so it was a huge thing, but like we just thought maybe they miscounted. But I didn't know people were actually stealing food from other people. And his all hungry ass.
That's so savage.
I know, but that's probably the only two things. Everything else I was witness for, except for one I didn't see. I was really excited to see all the rest of the games I wasn't there for. But yeah, one other thing I guess would be like I'm apparently a mouth breather, and I just like sit with my mouth open. I didn't know that. So weird. Seeing yourself on TV is just like, oh.
Yeah. Do you guys get more than one outfit, or do you wear that same outfit? Because me and my wife were watching it. She's like, their shoes are dirty already. It's only, but I'm like, well, babe, like they're in the sand. Like the one of the first games is like they're like in the dirt, or like no. It was the after red light, green light. I'm like, they're falling all over the floor. Like their shoes are.
It's funny. My sister asked me the same thing. She's like, did your guys' shoes come dirty? And I was like, no, they were 100% white. I don't know what the hell happened. But we were also in the tents holding for a while, which was outside in the like that hangar area. So there's just like dirt being kicked up and stuff. But no, we only got one tracksuit. So that was part of they'd break you down, and they don't really show a good and I think that's probably what they want viewers to not know, so that way when you get into the games, if you want to ever do it, and I think you should probably do it in season 2, but another talk here, is they break you down, right? The food is shit. Like the food that they didn't even highlight. Boiled chicken.
It didn't look like you guys ate at all, or used the bathroom, or slept. Actually,
Nothing.
I mean, you see people kind of laying out while they're like while they show the thing, but like they don't show like when you guys go to bed. Is it like lights out? Is it like, I think actually they do say like it's like lights out at some point or whatever. But
yeah. So they break you down, and I can kind of give you a little overview. So they break you down with the food. Some people went home, they were like, I can't do the food thing. Like that's my thing. So 3 meals a day, they were unproportioned. So some people were either heavy set or muscular, people that food is their fuel, their everything. And they would have lower portions than I would, right? I might have a chicken breast and a half. Somebody might have a little piece of chicken. They didn't really care. The vegetables were like either really raw or like very undercooked or like overcooked. And that was our 3 meals. It was just so bad. No salt, no hot sauce, no nothing. And then sleep wise, they let us stay up as long as we really wanted to, until like, unless we had like a big game or something like that, then they'll say, okay, time to shut it down. But we didn't know what time it was ever. So we probably wake up at 4 to 5 in the morning, and then we probably don't go to bed until like 4, or probably not 4, but like probably like 12 or 1 a.m. in the morning. So it's like we don't really know, because people are talking, and they really just allow us to do whatever we want to until everyone gets into bed. And everyone got into bed, and that's when they'll just turn off the lights. But like if people were still up and talking, they would just keep the lights on. And people did shower. However, the shower conditions, it was community showers. And they would allow us to change our underwear and our socks. It was the only 2 things that we were allowed to change. And it was absolutely disgusting. I would shower with pretty much my socks on and take a shower. I have 2 towels on the floor because I didn't want to touch the floor. And then I would shower and then change in the shower in the stalls, and then that would be my life for 2 weeks. And it was just everybody was coming and going, and like it was gross. People were just disgusting. Hair, the amount of hair, I was like, okay, you guys need to do something. I'm so glad that they did have chores, but like people just needed to clean them after themselves. Nobody took a shit, mind you, for like 2 weeks. They had to give us fiber bars because nobody was pooping, and we started complaining like, I haven't taken a poop in like a week. Like this is a problem. But they weren't feeding us enough fiber. So yeah, they just broke us down. It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah, that's tough. any advice for people who might want to audition for Squid Games?
Any advice? Any advice? Like audition wise, audition tape, just be, I know it's probably going to be what everybody says, but be yourself, but be elevated, right? They really don't care, honestly, like how, what you do for a living. They don't really care about that. They want to see how you're going to play the game. And yeah, if some of that goes back to what you do, like for instance, like finance, you might be like, I'm calculated. I know how to pay attention to detail, like certain like things like that. So how are you going to win the game? Once you make it in, make sure all your medical stuff is up to date. Make sure you got no crazy shit on your social media, because they will do a background and a check like that, and a credit check, I think. And once you make it all the way in, then I would just say, play your game however you want to play. If you want to be the villain, be the villain, be that outspoken villain, so that way you can get your screen time, because not everyone was shown. So if you want to do something, do it. If you want to do it, make sure it's worth the while, right? Just don't go in there and thinking that you're just going to get a pass, because you might, but then at the same time you also might not be shown. So you want to make sure that you get some light a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right, so that's Squid Games, guys. Auditions for the next season are open right now.
Are you going? Are you doing it?
Your audition tape.
What is the app? What do you?
I don't know.
Why not?
I would. You know what? I'll say this. I'll audition for it if it's supposed to happen. And if I get there and I'm like,
the food sucks, I'm going home.
I mean, I've done Habitat for Humanity. It's probably a similar situation.
It's rough.
Yeah. No, and I think just to kind of round that out, like, for viewers' sake, when you watch a game like that, those are obviously, to your point, things that they don't show you. And it's like, imagine put yourself in this situation, right? I'm like the top high empathetic. So I'm like, okay, if I were in this situation where I'm like in a dorm with like 1,000 other people, I have literally no comfort. I had assumed you guys were only wearing that same outfit every day. I'm like, who knows how many times there's going to the like it just is. I'm like, man, like you'd not be the full version of yourself, put it that way. Yeah. So you're in there and it's like this.
Oh, they strip you down, not just physically. Like you look, I was looking back, I was like, I look tired. Like I looked gross. I probably didn't smell that great either. I wasn't as stank, but like I was not myself, right? Like I cried every single day. Like obviously, as you've seen, but I cried every single day. I missed my daughter. I wanted to go home, but I knew that I was there for her. So it was like this psychological weirdness that would come over you too, of like, I know I can do this. Like, I know I'm competitive, but this is a whole nother type of beast that I've never had to do before. And I commend people that are on like Survivor. Like that shit.
That's insane.
I
literally said, I was like, damn, they getting 4.56 million for this. Survivor. They be in the wild eating a cup of rice. And it's like, what, $1 million or something? Like, it's not
$1 million.
Yeah, it's like not even as much. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, it was rough. Biggie, so our Survivor girl, she said it actually, this one was a lot more rougher. And I couldn't tell you why. It is
right, because you at least get some fresh air.
Fresh air. You can know what time it might be based on the sun, but you can't. Yeah, you can't see shit. You're in a dry ass place with people you don't really know, probably don't want to communicate with. Like people stink. It's just not a vibe. Not a vibe.
Got it. So what can people expect from you now? Squid Games is pretty much over. I think people are probably starting to, watch more now, with, just social media kind of picking it up and moving it around. It's like, okay, people start going to watch it. But where can people expect to see you next?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any more opportunities on big screen TV yet, but you can still listen to my voice, possibly see me on YouTube. I have a true crime podcast called Paranoid Sisters Podcast. That was rough. Paranoid Sisters Podcast. And yeah, you can find me on my socials on Instagram at just Phalisia, Phalisia. There's only one out there in the world, and that's me. And then Twitter, Phalisia, Phalisia, the number 2.
There you go. Good. Felicia, thank you so much for Felicia. See that,
Thank
guys?
you. We're learning.
Thank
We're
you
learning.
so much for coming through and sharing your story. We're very excited to see what you do next. If you have not seen Squid Games, go check it out. It's a very good show. I told Felicia before we started, I watched For the Queer People, but I definitely enjoyed the show. It was a very, very good show. So go check it out if you haven't seen it. Send in your audition tapes. I'm gonna send in an audition tape and
Better.
write some scripts out or something, like to figure something out. You give me some pointers after this. So thank you so much. Y'all already know, man, it's another episode of Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.